And he's been doing this a pretty long time. He's been in the public eye for a while. He's done a lot. He's done probably hundreds or thousands of interviews since he was in college. He knows what he should and shouldn't say. I feel like that's him saying he wants to get out. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Nick DiMartino. That's Johnny Montalbano. This is another edition of Moving the Goalpost. You can follow us across social media at MTGPETP. You can follow the Empty the Bench Network across social media at ETB Network. And you can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart, Johnny at Montalbano NY. You can follow this show. You can follow the Empty the Bench Network at ETB Network. Did I say that? I can't remember.
You did.
Make sure, and you can watch all Empty the Bench shows on YouTube.com/ETB Network. And you can listen to this show wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure to like and subscribe. All right. So the Chiefs are eliminated from playoff contention, and Mahomes, it's the worst possible scenario, although Mahomes is going to be out for about 9 months, it seems like, with the ACL tear. He just got surgery for it. It seems like so I don't think next year is totally done for the Chiefs. If he's back in September, that's only a couple of weeks that they don't have Mahomes. So they can be back to their usual form in mid-September next year, assuming that he comes back in that time frame. But most of the time, it seems like guys come back a little earlier than expected.
Yeah. So a couple of things with that. So a lot of the reporting early is that it looks like he could be ready by week 1 of the 2026 season. But even if he comes back, there probably will be some rust involved. Now, this is the first major injury that Mahomes has ever had. Now, if you remember, when the most recent Super Bowl win for the Chiefs, not obviously 59 when they got destroyed by the Eagles, but the one 2 years ago, he was dealing with a high ankle sprain and played through it and didn't miss any time. So, but this is the real first significant injury in Mahomes' career. So even if he's ready to come back by week 1, which is what a lot of people are saying, it might take him a few weeks to get himself under the belt. You know, there's twofold. There's coming back from the injury, and then there's coming back into full form prior to the injury.
And how long does it take to recover from this stuff? I mean, look, I'm not an expert, and you're not either. Neither of us are really experts on this. I've always thought, like, I don't think it's going to be to the point where he won't be the same player after the injury, although there are examples of that happening. Sometimes, like, players get injured, and, like, look at Aaron Rodgers, for instance. Another year, it may have taken another year after his Achilles injury to actually go back to the player that he was before.
Well, so there's two different things, though, with that. With Rodgers, it was an Achilles, not an ACL and LCL. It was an Achilles, and he's a much older player than Mahomes. So there's two differences in that regard. But also, everybody just comes back differently. Now, it seems like, to what you were saying, it seems like players do come back sooner from ACL injuries than in prior years, and maybe that's because there's technology and you have more experience, and doctors maybe know some shortcuts along the way. We've actually, if you compare it to like baseball with Tommy John surgery, you see that there are pitchers that undergo a different form of surgery to try and come back a little bit sooner than the year plus time frame. But everybody's different at the end of the day. But it does seem like from prior history that it's about a 9-month or so recovery. Now, with Mahomes, they have to remember this was week 15 that he suffered the ACL injury. It's not like somebody who suffered it, say, like midway through the season, like week 7, week 8 or something like that. This is week 15 that he had it. So it could be a little bit delayed. Maybe he comes back, because 9 months from now would be mid-September. And the NFL season, while we don't have an official start date, probably will be
early September.
First, like second week or so in September. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. It's funny because I'm thinking about with my main job, we just picked out our vacations for next year. And Labor Day weekend, Labor Day is the latest I think it could. Yeah, it's the latest it could be because August 31st is a Monday. So I would believe if the NFL is right, they usually don't start Labor Day weekend, so it would be the weekend after. So to put a long story short, I think Mahomes, if 9 months would be right around week 1.
Yeah, I think it'll be maybe week 2, possibly. I don't know who they play week 1 in their schedule.
But we don't have the schedule out. I can
Right,
look.
we don't have it out yet.
Right? Yeah, because the schedule won't get released. The official schedule, who, when, and where doesn't come out until about the middle of May. But their opponents for 2026, besides the obvious being the AFC West, they'll be playing. Of course, they'll be playing the Bills, and I'll just look at their other teams. So they're playing. Looks like they're playing the. Oh, they're going to play the AFC East. So they're going to play the Pats, the Jets, obviously the Bills, and the Dolphins. And it looks like they're playing the NFC West next year. Yes, 49ers, Chargers, Rams, Seahawks, and then they still got an AFC South to be determined, an AFC North, and an NFC South opponent on their schedule. So they're actually going to get – well, we don't know what these teams are going to be, but if you just go based off this year, the NFC West, which has 3 playoff teams, and the AFC East has possibly 2.
Probably, most likely 2.
They won't play the Bills to start the year. They don't usually play in week 1.
Yeah, and they're gonna, and obviously that division is very tough. I mean, the Broncos and Chargers are also very likely playoff teams coming out of the AFC. So it certainly is possible that there's 2 teams from the AFC West that end up getting in. And it also is always possible that the Chiefs might not win the division, as happened this year. They had no shot at winning the division, even when Mahomes got hurt. The season was over anyway. There was no way they were coming back from this.
Yeah, it does seem kind of, I don't know what you're going to say, ironic, crazy, whatever adjective you want to use, that he gets hurt. Literally, this happens within the last 15 seconds, the last drive of the game, which is the last drive of the Chiefs season, pretty much, that they were in contention.
It's a super weird year if you look at, I mean, I'm not the only person to say this, but especially when you look at the AFC playoff, all the teams in the AFC that are in the playoffs, it's a whole bunch of young, inexperienced teams that are good, like the Broncos and the Patriots. There's also a whole bunch of mid teams like the Steelers and the Texans and the Jaguars. Although the Jaguars are 10-4, they're not really all that bad, but they are young and inexperienced, I would kind of put it. The point is that if you look at the AFC this year, I'm not so if you look at the AFC, the playoffs in the AFC, the Bills have the best path to the Super Bowl that they've ever had. When the best team that they have to play is the Broncos or the Patriots. Now, it's not that those aren't good teams, but they're younger. They have younger quarterbacks, and they're a little more inexperienced. And just because the Broncos can go 12-2 in the regular season, doesn't mean that they're built for the postseason. It really doesn't mean that. Just like the best teams in football are built for post Thanksgiving, late November, December, January, and the Broncos don't have a ton of playoff experience. So I think that will also be a pretty big factor.
Well, I think it's interesting because a lot of the narrative this week, after the injury and the Chiefs getting eliminated, is about Josh Allen and the Bills, because Allen's been talked about how he hasn't been able to get to the Super Bowl, and whether that's Allen's fault or not, which I really don't think it is if you look at how he's been playing. But
he's played now in those games.
Oh, of course, yeah, absolutely. I mean, look how well he played when I always think of that game against the Chiefs when he played lights out and the Chiefs came back with 13 seconds to force that game to overtime. I mean, that's the most magical one. And every time you try and doubt Allen, he does what he did in the second half against the Patriots last week. But in the AFC, with no Pat Mahomes now, no Joe Burrow, possibly now without Lamar Jackson, this looks like the most favorable road for the Bills to get there. But I'll tell you what, though, and I was looking this up on Tuesday. Right now, if the playoffs started today, you'd be looking at a Patriot-Texan first-round matchup. I got to tell you, I would like the Texans a lot. The Texans are that one team that I think you have to look out for because they're getting hot at the right time, and a lot of that team is starting to get into focus now. Their defense has been Super Bowl caliber all year, but now their offense is starting to hit in stride. And it doesn't matter who they're doing this against. I mean, their offense was struggling the first half of the year, C.J. Stroud was not playing well. He got concussed. And Davis Mills goes in. He plays well. Stroud comes back. Now the offense is getting to form. The defense has still been lights out. And I think if they keep it up like this, they may not win the division, but just get into the playoffs and you're playing hot right now, that could be a team you look out for. And a lot of the narrative also this week has been about the Patriots and the fact that they couldn't beat the Bills despite that big lead, and that maybe their 10-win season is a little fraudulent. I'm not ready to go there just yet. I mean, you can only play who you have in your schedule, and Drake May's been playing lights out. Let's see if they can correct that narrative on Sunday night against the Ravens.
Well, I would say I wouldn't say it's fraudulent, but it is because I think people use the term fraudulent a little too much
loosely.
Yeah, a little too loosely. It's not that it's fraudulent, but like it is a product of their easier schedule in the first part of the season. It's similar to how like I think the Bears are a little bit a product of their easy schedule in the first half of the season. Although they've beaten Bears fans, don't come at me. They've beaten all the good teams that they've had to play. They beat the Eagles. They beat the. Actually, I think that's the only team, like really good team.
That game though against the Eagles was very significant because Ben Johnson ran laps around Nick Sirianni in that game, and Caleb did play well.
Yeah.
So he has another chance on Saturday to do that against the Packers, who suffered a very rough week for the Packers, but we'll get to that.
Well, yeah, they beat the Eagles and they beat the Steelers, which is a fairly good win. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, they're not a great team, but they do have it is one of their tougher games. So I'll give them some credit, though. I do think up until like Thanksgiving, they were very much a product of their schedule not being very strong. But I mean, they did get cooked by a backup quarterback. Like for a while, the Bears were winning games, but it didn't feel like they were winning games. But now I think the Bears are actually in good form. Caleb Williams is playing really, really well. And I think they're similar to what you said about the Texans. I think they might be getting hot at the right time. I don't think that they were playing this well earlier in the season. They beat the Browns 31-3. I mean, the Browns stink, but how many teams would beat them 31-3? Like it's not like they were 28-point favorites in that game. So that still is pretty impressive to beat a team 31-3. I mean, the Jets couldn't beat anybody 31-3. So
they would in the game you wouldn't want them to win. When you want to tank for high.
Right.
I think the difference, though, with the Bears, though, Nick D, is the fact that they have the Rams and the Seahawks in the NFC West, and there's no Rams team in the AFC right now.
Yeah, well, the Rams, I think, look like the best team in the NFL right now.
I think they're the most complete team, and I think that's what would make them the best. Now, they suffer some injuries. Now, look, we come on here every week, and we think we have the best team in the league, and then some team suffers a major injury, that's different. Well, if that happens, I mean, I feel like that happened this past week with the Packers because literally 5 minutes before Micah Parsons goes down, I'm talking to somebody at the bar that I was at Sunday and saying that I think the Packers are one of the most dangerous teams, not only in the league, but in the NFC, but in the entire league. And then Micah Parsons goes down, Christian Watson goes down, and that whole feeling changes. But, I mean, when you think of the Chiefs here, I mean, just taking it back to the Chiefs, the other thing, though, too, is like, what's going to change with this team going into next year? Like a lot of the pieces that got them to how they've been so successful. Kelsey, who's an aging guy, their receiving core has been in and out.
Well, Kelsey's going to retire, I'm sure.
I would imagine that he doesn't come back after this. I don't see why not. What else does he really have to prove?
Well, honestly, Travis Kelsey has costed them quite a few games this year. He's not in his best form right now.
Clearly his better days are behind him. He's been in the league for a long, long time, and I don't really know what else. I mean, unless he really loves the game, that's the reason to keep going at it. But
yeah, a lot of guys keep playing until they can't. Although that typically doesn't really happen. I don't know. I mean, if you look at somebody like Brady, like he retired the first time, and then he came back because he knew he could still play, and then that last year was just pretty bad.
Yeah, the 30. What was it, like 39-day retirement for Brady? Comes back, does get the Super Bowl ring, but then tries to give it one more run and falls off. But this is the first real bit of adversity for the Chiefs franchise in over a decade. Yeah, that's true. And like I said, I think they'll be fine in the future. I think they'll go back to their old form.
Everybody wants to pretend that the dynasty is over. And it's like Mahomes is only 30 years old. He's not he still is young. I don't think the dynasty is over. Brady got injured one year. I think it was in 2009. And I think who was the quarterback that year? Matt Castle.
Matt Castle, yeah, won 11
was the quarterback.
Games.
So it could have been really easy to think the Brady Belichick dynasty was over then. I don't think the Chiefs dynasty is quote unquote over now necessarily. I think it's ridiculous to just discount the possibility that they might come back and win more Super Bowls. I mean, look, the Brady Belichick dynasty, they went 10 years without winning a Super Bowl at one point. And nobody thinks of it as multiple dynasties. Everybody thinks of it as just one dynasty that just lasted for 20 years.
It just it just feels like the people want to just, pound on a team when they're down because they're so tired of the Chiefs being so successful all these years. Jealousy, I think, has a lot to do with it. Look, I respect the heck out of it. I mean, it's very tough in today's NFL to be as successful this long period of time when you have the 17-game season, you have free agency, you have coordinators leaving like it's nothing. Go ask the Eagles that, who've gone through coordinators like it's nothing over the last several years.
Yeah. Some more injuries I want to talk about. Davantae Adams and Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons, I think, was an ACL tear. Davantae Adams was a hamstring injury. Yeah. Non-contact injuries are always the worst. I don't know how much this really affects the NFC playoff race that much with Micah Parsons. I don't really think it does. Micah Parsons, don't get me wrong, Micah Parsons is a very good player, but one player on defense usually doesn't affect games that much. I mean, proof of this is that if you look at the spreads, I don't think it's going to affect – it might affect the spread by like a half a point, if that. I could still see the Packers end up making the playoffs anyway. One thing they have is the 2 wins over the Lions if there's a tiebreaker. So I don't really think this is going to affect the playoff race that much.
Well, see, I'm a little bit different because I was very high in the Packers, and it's not only just Micah. And I think, though, to what you were saying, not just Micah. They suffered a bunch of injuries last week. Christian Watson.
That's true.
Zach Tom, their best offensive lineman. They also suffered Evan Williams. I think Evan Williams is their defensive guy. He got hurt. I mean, the Packers, they actually were playing very well in that game against the Broncos until that interception that Love threw, and then all the injuries, and they were just coming one right after the other, and it just felt like the team got deflated, and the Broncos took advantage of that. But I think it could possibly affect the Packers. But Evan Williams is his name. He's also got hurt last week. Now I still trust Jordan Love. I still trust their coaching staff. The team is still very, very talented. But if Watson's out any length of time, that actually could be as big of a blow as losing Parsons, because now you look at them. They have a lot of options, but they don't have a true number one receiver. When Tucker Kraft went out, that did hurt a bit for the Packers until Watson came back into his old form, and he's just rounding into that.
Yeah. Well, they were still able to win a whole bunch of games without Christian Watson. But the Packers sometimes they look. I'm sorry, not Watson. Hockenson.
Yeah, no, you were right. You were right. Christian Watson. Yeah, their receiver.
No, I'm saying they were able to win a bunch of games without their tight end, Tucker Kraft.
Tucker Kraft, yes, yeah.
So the Packers, I mean, look, they're still 1.5-point favorites against the Bears, but I will say the Packers sometimes they're kind of a funny team because sometimes they're just inexplicably really bad at times on offense. Like Jordan Love is a good player, but he's a little streaky, I think.
No, you're right. He is very streaky, and he was actually going through a very hot stretch lately up until that interception that he threw on Sunday. But he's made some unbelievable throws, too. He played very well against the Lions on Thanksgiving Day. He had that great touchdown to Watson against the Bears, which was a Super Bowl caliber throw by Watson. I should say by Love. And that's the kind of throw and stuff, and that's the kind of play that could take the Packers very, very deep. But at the same time, he has those interceptions that are like that could take him out in the first round.
Yeah, that's the problem is that Jordan Love has such a low floor. his floor is so low. Like you could see the way he played, like the way he played against the Panthers. He was terrible in that game, and like that's my biggest worry with the Packers. I mean, I think they're probably a playoff team. It looks like the Lions are probably going to be out. I think the NFC playoff picture right now, the Lions are one spot out of the playoff at 8-6. The Packers are 9-4-1. So there's no way actually, there's no way that there could be a tiebreaker unless the Lions actually tie one of their games. But the Packers are favored slightly in every single one of their games. They play the Bears, the Ravens, where they're favored by 2.5, and the Vikings. They should definitely beat the Vikings. But the Lions, they play the Steelers, the Vikings, and the Bears. I think it's possible that the Lions win 3 in a row, go 11-6, and it's possible that the Packers only win one of their next 3 games. If the injuries are that significant, that certainly could happen. But I don't think that's very likely, even with their injuries. I still think they probably win 2 of their next 3. Because if they would have to lose to the Bears and the Ravens, I don't think they're losing both of those games.
This weekend will be very telling to that because the Bears have a lot of confidence right now. The Packers with a lot of injuries. The Bears going to be looking for revenge after what had happened 2 weeks ago. I have a tough time as of right now trying to grasp that game. I would lean more towards the Packers side right now, but if the Bears get revenge on that, and I have to think the Lions are going to bounce back against the Steelers because they usually don't lose 2 in a row. And I know they're laying a big number against the Steelers, but I think they can win they could probably win that game, but it would be a high scoring affair because that's just how the Lions play.
The Lions always play in high scoring games. The only team with more high scoring game that plays in higher scoring games is the Cowboys.
And more often than not, the Lions are coming out on top, and the Cowboys are not.
Yeah, that's true. Often against teams that kind of stink. Like JJ McCarthy cooked the Cowboys. Like they make every offense look good.
I look at them at home this year, losing home games. You know, in years past, the Cowboys would never lose at AT&T Stadium. This year, they lost to the Vikings, the Cardinals, and yeah, it's just been ugly there. And they got a 1% chance to make.
They lost to the Panthers.
Yeah, and the Panthers on the road. Although the Panthers play well at home, and so it maybe at that point, look, even the Rams lost to the Panthers at home. So maybe it speaks that the Panthers are not as bad as we all think.
Yeah, although I think the Panthers, you're right. The Panthers are a pretty good home team, but they're still a below average team. Like we expect they're still a below average team, and it's not just the Panthers. Like the Cowboys lost to a lot of like mid teams.
Oh yeah, I mean
they let the Jets put 22. The Jets' offense at the time was totally dead in the water when they put up 22 against the Cowboys.
And the Cowboys are the most mid team in the NFL the last 20 years. I mean, even this year is no exception. So, I mean that team's done less with more than a lot of the league.
Well, although this year, in some ways, it's the opposite. I would say Dak is doing more with less.
Oh, I know, but see, how that is different. I'm just talking about the team as a whole.
Right. The team itself.
But no, listen, Dak this year. I tweeted this out on Monday morning. The 2025 Cowboys are the 24 like the 24 Bengals because I think it goes hand in hand. Dak is playing as well as Joe Burrow was playing in 24, but that team's got no defense whatsoever, and there's only so much that the quarterback can do.
Yeah, I was talking about it's a big year for the Bills and Josh Allen. I also think it's a pretty big year for Justin Herbert and the Chargers. I mean, he's very young. He's a young quarterback. They have a lot of time, but it's going to be just like with the Bills. It's going to be as easy of a path as they've had. And Justin Herbert sort of developed a reputation for not being able to compete in the playoffs. I don't totally put too much stock into that because it's kind of like how A-Rod used to have a reputation for not being able to compete in the playoffs, and then people kind of forget about it sometimes. Like Peyton Manning was known for being a choker in the playoffs, and then he hobbled his way to a second Super Bowl, and everybody forgot about it. So I kind of don't put too much stock into it because it's still in the middle of his career, if that makes sense.
I think with Herbert, it was more about the coaching in the playoffs with a guy who we really should not mention his name on the show, but we know about the coaching history with
Brandon Staley.
Yeah.
But last year, look how bad he was against the Texans with Harbaugh.
Well, and then I was going to get to that. Then last year, they looked like they were going into that game. They were on paper the much better team against the Texans and dominated that team the first half of that game in the wild card round and got absolutely destroyed in the second half. So that's where the narrative comes in there. It almost a little bit like Allen, because Allen's had that narrative too, though Allen's will put up better numbers than Herbert in these playoff games.
Yeah, of course. And I think that people judge quarterbacks winning a little too much. You know, like people sometimes talk about quarterbacks winning and losing as if they're playing each other in like an individual sport. And, you know, Josh Allen has been amazing in some of these games that they've lost. So I think it's obviously kind of silly to talk about Josh Allen, quote unquote, losing games. And Justin Herbert, I think, is one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the league this year. One of the 10 best, certainly in the regular season. In the postseason, all right, I guess we'll find out. But Josh Allen, like people sometimes say, like, oh, you can't win a Super Bowl with Josh Allen. I mean, look, the Eagles won.
Ridiculous.
Look, the Eagles won a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts. Of course. What's that?
And Nick Foles.
Yeah. Like the notion that you can't win a Super Bowl with this quarterback or with that quarterback is like, well, I've seen teams win Super Bowls with mid quarterbacks.
If Josh Allen is not on the Bills this year, the Bills are a 4-win team.
Exactly. So, and the Bills and the Ravens are a little bit like this too, where they have a lot of really obvious flaws. They're very flawed teams in a lot of ways. And the reason the teams are so good is just because of their quarterback. Like if you look at, if you look at the Chiefs throughout the season, they're not this year, but just in general, like throughout their dynasty, they were really good teams outside of Mahomes. Like they were really good. They were good for reasons other than Patrick Mahomes. Whereas the Ravens, they were really only good because of Lamar Jackson or because of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, but their defense kind of stunk. Same thing with the Bills. Like they've only really been such a great team because of Josh Allen. But you know, the Bills defense is a little sus. They keep getting into a lot of shootouts. The Bills are not a well-balanced team, but I still think they can win a Super Bowl just because their quarterback is so good.
Absolutely. And you know what? That defense last week against the Pats did make some adjustments in the second half that were very, 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 very good.
Yeah.
The first half, they couldn't do anything, but in the second half, they adjusted. Josh Allen got out of it. James Cook was running the ball like crazy and also catching it and running it. So they made a lot of adjustments.
Yeah. By the way, we were talking about the Vikings and Cowboys. JJ McCarthy, Mahomes killed me in fantasy.
Yeah.
He killed me with those numbers. The funny thing is, if I had started McCarthy over Mahomes, I would have won.
Which you would never have thought you would have done.
No, of course I'm not going to do that. And nobody unless you have a time machine, nobody would have ever done that. And like, I would have felt a lot worse if I had like put McCarthy in instead of Mahomes.
Of course. Yeah. That's the way you got to look at it. I know that. I got into my playoffs after starting 0-4 this year. So
no, I was a juggernaut. I was like in first place the whole year. I went 12-2.
I can't make a pick or a play to save my life, but my fantasy season has been phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I've had a little bit of both. Like my fantasy teams, I had one really good team, two fairly good teams, and one really bad team. Fantasy basketball, I am awful. I am one of the worst fantasy basketball players ever. It's so hard to keep up with fantasy basketball.
Fantasy basketball I've never done, and I can only imagine how grueling it must be.
And fantasy baseball, never. Forget about it.
Oh, well, 2 years we won't have to worry about that. But
Phillip Rivers returns for the Colts. He was pretty bad, I would say. He didn't look very good, although they almost won that game. So they almost won the game, but Phillip Rivers was really, really bad.
He looked like a rusty quarterback who hadn't played in 5 years. That's what he looked like.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what he is. He hasn't played since 2021.
Actually, I'll tell you what, though, it was the Colts defense that actually played pretty well in that game. Sam Darnold did not look good for the most part. It was a lot of their special teams why they were able to come back and win. And this is the predicament the Colts are in right now with just 3 weeks to go in the season. And now they got, the Jaguars at 10-4 and the Texans, who are playing as good and as hot as anybody in the league right now. And their schedule the last 3 weeks, they got to play the Niners on Monday night, and they got the other two games. They got the other divisional games to wrap up the year. That's why I think the Colts are in real trouble.
Well, the Colts are in trouble because of Daniel Jones getting hurt. I mean, Phillip Rivers was their best option. And I mean, Phillip Rivers is 44. When I first saw a picture of him, I thought it was AI. I didn't even think it was real. Like, I was like, there's no way Phillip Rivers got that fat. I honestly thought it was AI.
Well, I mean, but if you think about it, though, like, what was he really doing? I mean, was he really keeping himself in football shape for those 5 years? It was so freaky because of the timing of all of this with Jones. The fact that he gets hurt. I mean, he had been playing hurt, and then he goes down with that injury. Then, Anthony Richardson was still on IR. Now he got taken off of IR this week, but he was out. And then the other backup, Riley Leonard, who went in for Jones, a Duke quarterback, a former Duke quarterback, replacing another former Duke quarterback, he got hurt, and so he couldn't go. So really, they really had no other options. It was too late in the season to go out and make a trade for anybody. So their options were so limited. And when you're in a playoff race like the Colts still are, you really had to take a drastic measure.
Yeah, because I would, even though Phillip Rivers looked horrible, I think you have a greater shot at winning with Phillip Rivers than you do with Anthony Richardson. That's how bad he was.
Well, he just got activated this week. I think Riley Leonard could have actually done something because he did show some moments against the Jaguars that he made some pretty decent throws. But
I don't think.
Going to Seattle, the way the Seahawks have been playing. Now, the Seahawks have not been playing great at home the last couple of years, but the way that team has been playing for this season, no matter where they were playing, was a very, very tough spot for him to go into after being away from the game for 5 years.
No, you're absolutely right about that. It was and they almost won that game. That's the crazy part. They almost won that game. I mean, Sam Darnold didn't have a good day at all. I mean, the thing with the Seahawks not winning at home is I think they just tend to play tougher teams at home this year than on the road. I think that's really just what it's a product of, I think. But in this case, the Colts with a 44-year-old quarterback, well, that's not exactly a tough game.
I will say, though, I was rooting so hard for Phillip Rivers the last drive in that game. I was like, how cool would this be? Is shaping up for him to have a game-winning drive to set the Colts up to win the game, which would have been an unbelievable story. Again, we were documenting about how this stuff can only happen in Hollywood. Well, it almost had that Hollywood ending, except he throws that pick at the very end there, and the Seahawks survive, which they needed to in the worst way.
Yeah. No, well, there was a similar thing with the I think there was a similar thing with the Jets with Vinny Testaverde in 2005. He was like sitting on his couch, and the Jets called him up. They called him up at home, I think, in 2005.
I don't know why.
I think after Chad Pennington got injured.
Oh, well, yeah, we know about Chad's injury history towards the end there. I think you're right. I'm trying to remember that.
I'm trying to remember. It was a long time ago.
It's a time that I should have remembered.
But he was only out of the game. He wasn't really out of the game for a long time. They signed him after Chad Pennington got hurt, but he at least played like the year before. But he was still like 42 years old at the time. He was pretty old. He wasn't that much younger than Phillip Rivers.
Yeah,
but he wasn't out of the game.
He's 62 right now, so
he was 42 at the time. But he wasn't the difference is that he wasn't out of the game for a long time. Like Phillip Rivers hasn't played in 4 years. That's the difference.
Correct.
And he wasn't in, and he clearly is not in football shape. I mean, he's literally a grandfather. He's a grandfather.
When you're 4 years older than your head coach, that's all you need to know.
That's crazy. Being older than your head coach,
and you have to look at it to him. Yeah. So he did come. So Nick D, you're right. He did. So he was with the Jets from 98 to 2003, and then came back in 2005 and started 4 games. And he was 42. And actually still played another 2 years after that.
Yeah. So speaking of the Jets, any possibility that we can get Joe Burrow? There's a lot of rumblings about it, and I would definitely. I don't think anybody disagrees that we would all want to do this. The Bengals are a dumpster fire of a franchise. They can't handle their quarterbacks. Although I guess you could, like we were talking about the Bills and the Ravens being bad teams outside of their quarterbacks. I mean, the Bengals are so bad that they're bad in spite of how good their quarterback is. That's how badly run their franchise is. Statistically, last year, Joe Burrow had an amazing season, the best season actually statistically, and they weren't even a playoff team. The only reason they had any shot at all was because of Burrow. The problem is that the Jets are also a dumpster fire of a franchise, and I'm not totally even convinced that they're even that much better than the Bengals are as a franchise. Did you see the controversy with the snow with the Bengals? So did you see this? So when a bunch of people who had tickets to the Bengals Ravens game last week, they got to their seats were covered in snow. They didn't even clean off the seats.
Yeah, I saw that.
This franchise is it's like a parody of itself.
Well, I think there's no question that Zach Taylor will be gone at the end of the year. I don't know if they're going to, maybe they'll shop Burrow. I know everybody thinks that Burrow wants out after his comments last week. I don't know if that was more about him wanting out or the fact that he was just very frustrated with what the team had been like.
I think it's because he wants out. Look, here's the reason why I say that. Burrow has, and most starting quarterbacks are like this, they're very careful about what they say. And he's been doing this a pretty long time. He's been in the public eye for a while. He's done a lot. He's done probably hundreds or thousands of interviews since he was in college. He knows what he should and shouldn't say. I feel like that's him saying he wants to get out. That's what I think it seems like.
Well, I think it's very clear that the Bengals need to go in a different direction in terms of like head coach, GM, because this organization has not been able to fix that offensive line. Defense continues to be absolutely atrocious year in and year out. So I would listen to offers, absolutely. But you're going to be talking about, if you're the Jets, easily all the capital that you got in the Sauce Gardner trade. But to be fair, though, as great as Joe Burrow is, how much better do the Jets get because of Burrow?
A lot better because of their current quarterback situation.
Well, that's fair because that
doesn't mean that they're gonna be Super Bowl winners or anything like that. But I think they get substantially better if Joe Burrow's their quarterback as opposed to Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor. Those guys aren't even really starters.
Here's the thing. Yeah, I agree with you. Now, here's the thing with that. If you're the Jets, do you trade all that draft capital that you got? If Joe Burrow's available, let's say he is, you have two options. You can either trade all that draft capital for a shot at Fernando Mendoza and take a gamble that way, or you do this for Burrow. If you have those two options, I think you go for the sure thing. You go for Burrow, absolutely. And then you can draft somebody like either a Ty Simpson or a Diego Pavia, which is somebody that it seems like the Jets are very, very high on right now. Maybe you go down that road. So, of course, if that's the option. But there's also probably if Joe Burrow is rumored to be out there, there are going to be other teams that are going to shop for him. Like I can think of some other teams right now easily. Like I could think the Cardinals. I mean, look at the Cardinals, who with one of the best tight ends in the league right now. They've got Michael Wilson, who's a good wide receiver. They've got some running back options who have been hurt all year. Marvin Harrison has been hurt a lot this year too. So the Cardinals could be that kind of team too that could take a try at him as well.
The Cardinals, I don't think the Cardinals are we think of them as a bad team, which they kind of are. But Jacoby Brissett has been starting for a lot of this time, and I think with a good quarterback, I don't think the Cardinals are, even though they're not a good team, I don't think they're destined to be a bad team. I think with some tweaks, they can be a playoff team.
That team has talent. Now, if you remember, up until recently, they had played a lot. They had lost a lot of close games. Now, it's fallen off the tracks the last 2 weeks, but they have actually been in a lot of these games. So that's one of the reasons why I took them last week, plus 9.5 against the Texans, was because of that. But that team does have some talent. See, I think Joe Burrow makes more sense to go to the Cardinals than he does the Jets.
Right. You mean from Joe Burrow's perspective?
Yes, I think from both sides' perspectives, meaning the Cardinals and Joe Burrow.
Okay. No, that's totally fair. All I'm saying, though, it also is possible that the Jets could outbid them, but knowing the Jets, they might not do that.
Well, I mean, that's what you have to think about. I mean, you have that, as like I said, you have that capital. Do you have, though, also some, like, now you usually don't trade. It's very rare. Now, the Jets actually broke this ice twice this year, but you usually don't see a trade involving a player for player and picks. Now, the Jets broke that twice because they actually did do that at the deadline, but it would depend, I think, also on the offer and if Burrow wants to make that decision of where he goes to, what team makes the most sense. Now, at the same time, though, if you go out to Arizona, you're dealing with the Niners, you're dealing with the Seahawks, and you're dealing with the Rams. That's 6 games as well. And those
all those teams are potentially Super Bowl contenders. Although, if you go to the AFC East, you do have to deal with the Patriots and the Bills. So that's an issue too.
I think there's more though out there, and then
you're right.
And also out of the NFC West. One of those good amount of those teams have too very good defenses too, like the Niners do. And how good really is that offensive line for the Cardinals? And the Jets' offensive line has, I mean, I don't know. It does sound, by the way, as we're doing this, that it looks like the Jets might be getting either Fields or Taylor back because Adrian Martinez was released off the roster. So it could be one of those vets are coming back too for them. But I wouldn't rule it out. I really wouldn't. But I think it also depends on where the Bengals go, what direction they want to go in. Because, like I said, I don't think I think Zach Taylor's gone, and I think you can make a very legitimate case.
I actually am not convinced Zach Taylor is going to be gone. And the reason I say that is because the Bengals tend to not fire their coaches very easily.
But maybe you can make more of a case that the GM should go, though?
I think the GM absolutely needs to go. It's hard to necessarily blame all of this on the head coach because I think a lot of it is really just roster issues. The fact that the defense is so bad has a lot more to do, I think, with the GM than it does with the head coach.
I will say 2 things real quick to that, though. Number one, usually when a new GM comes in, he's going to bring in his own guy.
That's true.
His own guy as the head coach. And number 2, I think the Zach Taylor. See, for me, after they lost that game to the Bears, that was the last straw for Zach Taylor. I mean, the way that game was, you came back multiple times. You need to make one stop against the Bears, and you couldn't do that. You gave 47 points to them. The Bears, look, they're a good team. They're not an offensive team that should be scoring 47 points, though. So
No. The Bengals, they're a little bit like the Cowboys this year, which is like they make bad offenses look good.
One last question. What do you think you would have to trade if you're the Jets to get Burrow?
That's the question.
At least 2 first rounders, probably the ones that you got in the Jones trade, which right now, the way that's looking at the the Colts may not make the playoffs. So maybe those are talking about mid first round pick next year.
Yeah, I would say probably at least 2 first round picks. And then probably maybe even a little bit more. The Jets don't draft well, so I don't necessarily care that much about those draft picks.
And the thing is, too, would you want to trade all that draft capital for Mendoza? You don't really know what he's going to be. I mean,
we don't know what he's going to be in the NFL. We have no idea. Look, a lot of times we have these number one, these top picks coming out of the draft, and they turn out to be nothing. I mean, look at the difference between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. Like, for a while, it looked like CJ Stroud was the clearly much better quarterback, which I still think CJ Stroud's a better quarterback than Bryce Young. But now it looks like it's a lot closer than we thought.
The gap's closed a lot, yes.
The gap's closed a lot in the past couple of years.
And Stroud had multiple concussions in his career.
And Mariota. We thought that draft was so quarterback heavy, and now both of them are just backups. It's spent most of their careers with backups. The truth
be told is that you really don't know. I mean, the only other the one other direction I could see the Jets going at, and don't hate me when I say this, is a possible combination of Kyler Murray and Ty Simpson.
No. Kyler Murray's been. I've heard Kyler Murray's name a lot because I don't have a lot of faith in Kyler Murray just as a quarterback.
But I think he's going to be gone because there is an option. I think if he's on the roster at a certain point in March, I think there's like another $12 million bonus or something like that the Cardinals will be on the hook for.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't have a ton of faith in Kyler Murray as a quarterback. I'd obviously much rather have Joe Burrow. But I've heard that name being floated around a lot, and that still is an upgrade. I mean, I'd rather have Kyler Murray than Tyrod Taylor. So
take one shot, take 1 year deal with Kyler, and if that doesn't work out, Arch Manning's available in 27.
yeah, well, we'll see how his next season goes.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Fernando Mendoza winning the Heisman. This is not surprising. We all thought he would win the Heisman. I think the bigger story here is Diego Pavia being an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a little crazy.
Yeah, not much of a surprise with the Heisman. I mean, it's that's really Fernando winning it was not really much of a surprise. I think the only question was going to be how big he was going to win it by, but there really was no surprise there.
Yeah, I don't know, this stupid banner.
It's the timer.
Yeah, the timer thing. I don't understand. So the weird thing about I don't understand why quarterbacks, and because he probably costed himself a lot of money and a whole lot of draft stock. I don't understand why quarterbacks dig themselves in these holes sometimes, like Shedeur Sanders did, and make themselves less likable to scouts and to NFL teams. Why would they do that? Especially Diego Pavia, who was like otherwise pretty well liked. I mean, being the Vanderbilt quarterback when Vanderbilt is sort of a traditional underdog, and these past couple of seasons has had pretty good seasons. I mean, they were almost a playoff team this year. They went 10-2. Why would Diego Pavia want to just ruin his reputation like this? Like it's all he had to do was say nothing. Or say like it's the easiest thing in the world to not come across as a complete asshole.
You know, the one thing I can think of why is at the end of the day, these are still kids and they're still young. And sometimes they could be immature and not grown up yet. As much as we want to talk about them being athletes, and you've heard me say this a million times. I mean, we talk about them being athletes, but at the end of the day, they still are students first, and they're still young kids. I mean, Javi's what, like 20?
He's 23.
He's 23. I mean, he's still. I mean, look, when I was 23, I don't want to say I was saying anything stupid or acting stupid, but I was still 23 at the time. I mean,
yeah, I get it.
I mean, we hold them. We hold them to high standards because they're out there on the football field while they're still in class, or we think at least. And
we think. Well, Vanderbilt, I'm sure, has pretty high academic standards.
Well, look, they all do. I mean, and I've said this before too, that if you watch the broadcasts on these certain channels, they will highlight a player, and they will not only highlight what he's doing on the field, but they'll highlight like his major or like his academic record, which is what you should do because these are students first and athletes second. Unfortunately, like I said, I think that we're treating this. I think the way they're being treated now is the other way around. But that's neither here or there. Look, Mendoza easily should have won the award. There's no really like drama about any of this. I mean, they all were deserving to at least be finalists. But Mendoza had an amazing year, and I think the capper to all that too was his comeback that he led Indiana over Penn State. That last drive, he made 2 unbelievable throws to help Indiana win that game, and in some ways set them up to where they are today. I don't want to say save their season, but also set them up into the position they're in right now, that they're the number 1 overall team in this college football playoff.
No, you're right. They're number 1 seed. And yeah, Mendoza had a phenomenal season. I think it's possible that Julian Sayin could have actually won if Ohio State had won that game.
I think Sayin was putting on a good shot too, but I mean, Mendoza was having an all-world year. And a lot of the time, Sayin had a great year too, but it was real. And it was when we think about Ohio State, the first thing we were thinking about really was their defense. How?
Yeah. I don't know. I find the whole Heisman Trophy ceremony to be a little bit uninteresting because I feel like I know who's going to win it every year.
Well, I'll tell you what the problem is. Now, I was out at an event Saturday night, but they had the awards show on the TV. The problem with the whole Heisman thing as a whole is it goes from 7 to 8 o'clock, but you only need to tune in at 7:55 to find out who's going to win it.
Yeah.
You have to drag a whole hour out, leading everything in where you talk about the 4 players, you're interviewing them, you're interviewing their family members, their friends. That's the real problem with the whole Heisman thing as a whole. It's not like, and I understand how I'm going to say this. It's not like the Survivor season finale where they announce the winner live in the first 5 minutes of the show, then they react to it. With this, you're building it up for something that's maybe 5 or 10 minutes, where at the end they announce the winner and then the winner talks on stage. That you have to drag that whole 55-minute thing in. That's honestly why, Nick D, I don't really watch it.
Yeah,
now, I had a gig with my band Saturday night, so I wasn't going to watch it on the screen. Plus, really, as great as the Heisman is, this time of the year, what do I really focus in on Saturday? Army Navy. That to me is that's the cooler of the two things. I mean, the Heisman's cool, don't get me wrong, but the way it's covered and stuff, where you only have to tune in at 7:55 to find out who wins and the speech and stuff and see how the voting was broken down. That's the only reason why you have to watch it.
And in today's age of like social media, it's like you can just find out later who won.
Yeah, and maybe there's even a leak or two that comes out before as well.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about Joel Klatt, who has a hot take about the NCAA tournament. So he's getting a lot of flack on social media. Here's what he had to say.
How important is it for Tulane or James Madison to be competitive this weekend? Is it sort of the future of an auto bid for the G5 at stake for them to look the part this weekend?
I don't think that it matters. It would help in the sentiment, the public sentiment, but these things are going to be it will be determined by finances and litigation. And the reason the group of 5 is included in this playoff is to avoid antitrust litigation. That's it, guys. Like, we're not looking for a Cinderella. Nobody cares in football about James Madison or the equivalent of George Mason going. Didn't George Mason go to the Final Four or something like that? Nobody cares in football about that. We don't want Cinderellas. We want the best teams playing each other at the end. In fact, hot take. I mean, like the hottest of all takes that I've ever had in my entire life. The NCAA basketball tournament is a joke. It's the dumbest tournament and the least fair tournament in all of sports. We go and we put teams at odd times on neutral sites in a one-game affair. Like, that doesn't crown a true champion. We're not doing anything that tells us who's the best team over the course of the entire season. Like, if anything, the NCAA basketball tournament should act exactly like the old World Cup, which we should have groups. They should all get guaranteed 3 games, and they should be played at the higher seeds arena so that those seeds are rewarded for a quality game. And that way we don't just get to see, Kentucky one and done against George Mason or something like that. Well, that's stupid. That's stupid. Again, hottest of all takes, but that would make the NCAA basketball tournament far better. Neutral site, one and dones. What are we doing?
Yeah, you know who loves that, though, is CBS. I mean, it's great for CBS.
I guess.
Well,
it sucks for the fans.
CBS paid billions of dollars.
All right. So that's what he had to say about. I mean, there's a lot of points to it. I think he's definitely partially correct in what he's saying. He's right about what he's saying about football, that we don't care about Cinderellas in football. And he's right. Most of us don't care about Cinderellas in football. It's not that I don't want to see Cinderellas. It's just that I want to see the best teams. That's what I want to see in the playoffs. That's what we all want to see in the playoffs. In basketball, I do think it's a little different. Basketball is very different when it comes to Cinderellas. I think he's partly correct when he talks about neutral sites. I'm a big believer that a lot of these games should be played on campus. I think it's much better for the fans and much better for the students in a lot of these cases. I would actually really kind of support that. Overall, though, the NCAA tournament's a lot of fun. So, I mean, I think it's pretty cool.
All right. You put a lot on me there. I'm with you. The first part of what Joel said was 100% right. And that's why in college football, that's why we don't really have Cinderellas, because it's not college, it's not basketball. It's not where the best team, it's not where you can have the Cinderella stories, because You just don't have that in football. It's very difficult to do. Now, if Tulane and James Madison pull it off this weekend, maybe we can have another conversation. By the way, spoiler alert, I don't think they do. But the part about the basketball, I mean, he sounds like a college football guy because he's way off. And I get now what he's saying about the whole home campus thing. You want in the first round to have it on your home campus. The problem with that, though, is the way the tournament is structured, it makes it almost impossible to pull that off. Because so what? So after the first round, all these guys are going to have to travel to the second round in 2 days. Like, so they play Thursday, then they got to play Saturday. They're not going to travel. And yeah, there is a TV angle and a broadcast and a media angle to this. You're going to have you're going to have to hire 60. You're going to have to hire what? 30. Let me do the math at the top of my head. 32 different crews, and all those to go to 32 different campuses.
Yeah, I guess
it's not. Joel, I get what you're saying. It's not realistic, though. You would have to change the entire structure of the NCAA tournament, and if you change the entire structure, you're going to ruin the darn thing.
Well, I don't think changing the structure would ruin it. I mean, the way it works is that they only play from Thursday through Sunday. Like, maybe if they played Monday through Wednesday, it would be a little bit different.
No, I think that actually makes it even worse. I think the fact that it is Thursday through Sunday is tremendous. I usually do this with my main job. I usually take off the first weekend. I usually take my first vacation that weekend because that is some of the best stretch of sports in the world, where you're starting at 12 noon and going all the way straight through till 12 midnight.
Yeah,
I think that's awesome. Actually, in some ways, it's even later than midnight because some of those first games at nighttime go late. Then, those second games get delayed. So you're talking, let's say, 12, 13 hours of college basketball nonstop, 16 games in one day on a Thursday and a Friday. I mean, you can't beat that.
Yeah, it's one of the best sports days of the year.
I just don't think it's realistic, though, that you could put 16 different crews, and we're not just talking about, play-by-play analysts, sideline reporter, and then all the other production trucks. I don't think it's realistic you can do that in 16 different things. I mean, now I think Joel will come back with us and say, well, you could do that in the NIT. Yeah, that's a little bit different, though. I mean, I get the NIT is like that, but the NIT is the NIT. It's not the NCAA tournament where you're playing for a national championship. It's a little
obviously.
different.
Now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, the only other way that could work is the tournament would have to go on for much longer than just the 3 weeks that it is. I mean, it would have to drag out during the week. You almost would have to shorten the season because in some ways it's already going into April for that. So I just don't see it being realistic. And also, then how do you do this from a TV side too? I mean, do you put really how do you do it from a TV side? Turner's going to need. I mean, it's on TNT it's on Turner Sports right now. So Turner Sports doesn't have 16 different crews they could do. ESPN could do that because they have all the people they could do that. But Turner doesn't have that many people to do all those games.
Well, I will say this, though. Would it be the worst thing if the NCAA tournament was longer? Because think about college basketball for a second. The entire season, all the popularity in college basketball is the postseason. It's the NCAA tournament and the conference tournaments. That's really the only time that college basketball is even that popular. I don't get regular season's like a snooze fest.
I don't get in, Nicky. I don't get into college basketball honestly until about right after the Super Bowl, and in that when there's conference play and like you said, the conference tournaments. And I think because so many teams make it, and in the past, that's the other thing too. There's so much parity now in college basketball. I mean, you used to have the number one team in the country maybe have 1 or 2 losses. Now there are teams that have 5 losses and they're the top team in the country. So it makes the regular season, I don't want to say meaningless, but not as important as in years past. As far as making it longer, I think expanding it, which they were talking about possibly going to 76. I don't want to do that. But I think if you're talking about making it longer, I think you'd be almost talking about adding more teams. Now, as far maybe the only thing you could do is extend it as in stretch it out longer with the 68 teams.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Like that's
no, I don't mean when I say expanding it, I mean you just make it like this the amount of time of the tournament is longer. I don't mean more teams necessarily.
I mean, I think you could possibly do that because after you get through really the first 2 rounds, then you're playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's the first couple, and then the Sweet 16 and stuff. And then you're playing 2 Saturdays and then a Monday in the championship, which, don't get me started with that. But I guess there's a way you could drag it out in that regard as far as the campuses. Now, I mean, so maybe there is a possibility you could do that. But then what if you have a West Coast team at home then? Is that game going to happen at 10 o'clock at night then?
I wouldn't care. Look,
I know it'd be good for you, but for somebody like me, unless I have a gig.
Look, I never complain. I never have much sympathy when people are just like, oh, the start time is a little too late. Like, yeah, whatever. Like how many games are you even going to watch anyway? Like, I just don't have much sympathy when people are just like, oh my God, the start time is too late.
I think the only way you could do that is you would have to really like restructure it and stuff to do that. Now, is that possible? It is. It's complicated, but I guess there's a way you could do it. But I think the way it is right now is so I wouldn't even use the word. I think it's perfect the way it is right now. My concern, though, is that they are going to try and make it to 76, and I think that's a mistake.
I don't want to look. I'm not a big believer in expanding everything, and in college basketball, there's no need to expand it. Like, I'm fine with automatic bids in basketball because you're picking out of a pool of 68 teams. You couldn't have a pool of 68 teams in football. That could never happen.
And you have so many conferences too in basketball that like Villanova play. Like a perfect example, like this weekend, Villanova plays in Division I in basketball, but in football, they're in the FCS playoffs. So there's a lot more teams that play D1 in basketball than football where you can do that, and more conferences where you could do that.
Yeah, and also, nobody can actually pick the 68 best teams. You can pick the 12 best teams in football. You can pick the 16 best teams in football. I could easily give a good reason for why this collection of football teams should be in the playoff and these shouldn't. In basketball, it's impossible to do. You can't pick the 68 best teams. So I actually think it's good in basketball that mid-major schools are able to get in with an automatic bid if they win their conference. Like, I think all of that is good. The difference between football and basketball is that in basketball, they earn it on some level. In football, they don't earn it. I mean, for everybody saying that Tulane and like James Madison earned their spot, like, no, they didn't. They clearly did it. Tulane, their best win was against Duke. They have no Power 4 team could have gotten in with the credentials that James Madison and Tulane had. It's the most obvious thing in the world. So what I don't like is that they don't play by the same rules. They sneak in because they need to fill a quota. And what Joel Klatt is saying is true. It's to prevent antitrust litigation. That's why I say they should have their own playoff. There should be a G5 playoff. And that should have been the case when there was a 4-team playoff because none of the G5 teams had a shot to win anything.
The closest thing you'll have in college football to Cinderella is what TCU and what Cincinnati did in recent years. And what ended up happening, TCU goes to the national championship and they get destroyed.
Was TCU really I mean, look, they were one of the top 4 teams. TCU wasn't really – I don't even really think of them as much of a Cinderella. Look, I think Cinderella is a little overrated in the sense that I'm not saying it's bad. I like the Cinderella stories, but I like it in doses. And I was saying this earlier this year. I like it in doses. Like – it kind of sucks that there was no Cinderella this past season in the NCAA tournament, but ultimately, maybe one Cinderella team is good. I don't want a Final Four of all Cinderella teams.
No, and it's very rare for that to happen. I mean, it's cool. It is also cool when you get 4 number 1 seeds in the Final Four. As difficult as that is, I mean, that's also pretty cool too. But the NCAA tournament is the best structured thing, and there is.
It was so weird when people were complaining about it. It's like, oh, we get the best teams in the Final Four. I can't believe this. This totally sucks.
And they all get in, and they all make it though in different ways.
There was
one region could be much tougher than another one. So
yeah. All right, I do want to talk about this one last thing. Will the Knicks hang a banner if they win the NBA Cup? And my view is they should do it, but as a joke. But I think from what I understand is that that teams have to actually hang a banner if they win the NBA Cup.
The Lakers did.
I think they have to. Here's what Joe Beningo said about it.
Yes, it's a disgrace. Yes. Oh,
stop it, bro. If they win this and it is a disgrace, and you know they're going to do it. It is a disgrace if they win this and put that stupid banner up there. You got to be kidding me. I pray they don't. I pray they don't do it. Is it possible that they wouldn't put it up in your mind?
It is a league rule. And just think about this. It's a league rule.
Oh, come on.
All you need to know,
it's a league rule for how long?
Could
Just
they
for
show
the
us something
season?
and reject it?
Right. Can they put it up for like a week?
I don't know the intricacies of that, but here's what I'll tell you. The past 2 champions put the banner up, and here are the 2 champions.
Who, the Lakers, right?
The Lakers and the Bucks, who have real banners that they have hung up.
We have real banners too, but they're only they're growing hair. I mean, we got real banners, but it's from a different time and space. I mean, come on.
Well,
What a disgrace.
we'll see what happens.
I pray they lose. I'm telling you. And I'm not going to see the game anyway because I ain't paying for it on Prime. I pray they lose the game. Please lose.
All right.
1970 NBA champions, 1973 NBA champions, 1994 Eastern Conference champions, 99 Eastern Conference champions, 2025 NBA Cup.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about this is that he talks about how he doesn't have Prime, but it's like, how does he watch Thursday Night Football? Those games are all Amazon Prime games.
Maybe that he won't go out of his way to watch it. That's why.
Well, actually, I'm going to watch because the game. I mean, as we record, the game is about to start in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Actually, look, the problem with the NBA Cup is that it's completely meaningless. It's just a regular season game and doesn't count for anything. Maybe what they should do is, my thought was, you can add games to the regular season, make it an actual tournament. You can add games to your regular season record, but you don't get penalized if you lose, if you advance and lose or something like that. That I think would make a lot more sense.
Or what you do is, if the team that wins the NBA Cup should get an automatic playoff spot.
Yeah, that's a good. Liam was saying that on Unnecessary Wagers yesterday. You get an automatic playoff spot. You're right.
Nice, green spot. I mean, the whole thing is pretty cool. I mean, I will be honest. I'm one of those geeky people that will say I love the courts. Yes, because I do. But that's really what it should be. I think one of the many problems with the NBA Cup is the timing of this all. I mean, this would have been a perfect format after the football season's over. If you want to do that in February and stuff, that's the time to do it. I think right now, I mean, if you're not really a diehard basketball fan, you didn't even know anything about this because it's happening right in the middle of football season.
The problem with an automatic playoff spot, at least this year, if the Knicks or the Spurs win it, is that they're obviously going to be playoff teams anyway. So
I mean, that's fair, but maybe they're seeding or something like that. It's something you would have to I mean, I understand what the whole thought about this was in the beginning, but there's got to be more incentive besides money to do this. I mean,
yeah, and the fans. The thing is, and that's important to the players, but the fans don't care about it.
It's not like the fans are going to get discounted. I'll say that.
I mean, look, it would be really ridiculous if the Knicks hang a banner if they win the NBA Cup. But I will say they are in second place in the East, and they're 2.5 games behind the Pistons. So the regular matters a lot for the Knicks.
And I actually think this team could go pretty deep. Now, I don't know if they can maintain the 130 to 120 that they're playing every single night, it seems like, over the course of a long season.
Look, this is not a championship caliber team in my mind.
I think they're – well, the only reason why I think they have a legitimate shot is because a lot of these top teams in the East have very big injuries to key players. The Knicks had that with Brunson. He missed a couple of games. My concern is they play this kind of basketball for a full 82-game stretch. They're going to get worn out. And that was one of the biggest criticism that Tom Thibodeau had when he was the coach here, was the fact that he wore his players out because he'd only play a very short rotation. Now, Mike Brown's playing a deeper rotation, but this kind of Mike D'Antoni-like basketball, I don't think is sustainable over the course of a full season.
Especially when Karl Anthony Towns is your second best player. I mean, he doesn't move very quickly.
Well, I agree with you on that. And, of course, all the rumblings now are about Giannis and that report that came out from Shams a couple of weeks ago regarding the fact that he wants out. Now, of course, he's hurt right now. I don't know if there's any coincidence that happened around the same time. But I mean, we'll see. It's a long season, and my concern right now with the Knicks is, they're winning, they're looking great, but like I said, this kind of shootout, loose style basketball, I don't know if it's sustainable over the course of a full season, even with all the injuries to these other key.
I'm not even sure it's really sustainable to anybody. I mean, have Mike D'Antoni teams ever won a championship?
No, they made the playoffs, but they would get knocked out in the first round or so. But that team also had Hall of Fame players like Steve Nash and company on their team too.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think the Knicks are winning a championship. Either way, we're a little long on time. That's our show this week. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will be back next year. The show will be back in 3 weeks in January. Yeah. So we will be back in 3 weeks. It was, we could recap the year, but I don't know. I'd rather recap the week.
Well, yeah. I mean, there was a lot that happened this year. I mean, it's good to join you officially on the show. And there's a lot that happened. There's a lot to look forward to in 2026 between the Super Bowl, the Olympics, and baseball. It could be the last year of baseball for a long, long time in 2026. So we'll see.
Well, yeah, there might be a lockout. Look.
Oh, no. There might be. There will be a lockout. It's just
going to be a lockout.
Well, there will be. It's just a question of how long. But nevertheless, it's going to be another amazing sports year. I'm looking forward to the holiday break. It's been for me personally, it's been a challenging year, but it's good to be on and get distracted for a couple of hours doing this every week. So, and Nick D, enjoy your holiday, enjoy the new year. We'll be back in 3 weeks, and before you know it, that'll be here. Because you know how fast this goes by. So,
all right, see you guys next year.
Yeah, we'll see you in 26.